I want to thank all of you for being faithful this morning. We've got a lot of our folks on vacations or traveling or going and doing this morning, but I appreciate your faithfulness. It's encouraging to see your faithfulness to the house of God. I do appreciate it. Sometimes as a pastor, as I've already mentioned, it does get discouraging when Christians don't show up to God's house. I don't expect sinners to show up for God's house, but I do expect Christians to show up if you're able. I know some of our folks are injured and can't come, and I know some of our folks are out of town and all that kind of stuff, but the ones that are here, the ones that can come and don't, that's the ones that it gets discouraging. Because they call, they have no problem calling and wanting stuff. But anyway, Genesis chapter 26 this morning. I want to try to talk to you today about don't let the enemy throw stuff in your well. Don't let the enemy throw stuff in your well. Probably about 20 years ago or so, I preached a similar message to this one. I know some preachers have a routine that they preach the same message every 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 years or whatever. I don't think I've preached but just a couple of messages in the same place more than a couple of times. But this message came across my heart again this past week when I was having so many troubles with the Baylor and so many people were having troubles with other stuff in their life. God brought this passage across to me again and got a different outline, but it's the same principle of the message this morning, and I think we can probably all use it. But in Genesis chapter 26, we're going to just read probably most of the chapter, and then we'll go back and talk about 3 or 4 points in this chapter. And there was a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went into Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, in Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go down not unto Egypt, but dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn, or stay here for a while, in the land, and I will be with you, and I will bless you. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all the countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven. And I will give unto thy seed all the countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, and my commandments, and my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of that place asked him of his wife, and he said, She's my sister. For he feared to say, She is my wife, lest, said he, the men of this place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And I'll skip the next few verses. I'll skip down to verse number 16, because that 6 to 16 is a whole other message of like father, like son, and all that kind of stuff. And so jump on over to verse number 17, because it continues in the story that I want to teach today. And Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called the names of after the names of them which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. And the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen and said, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well and strove for that one also. And he called the name of that one Sitnah. And he removed from thence, and he digged another well, for that they strove not. And he called the name of that Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba, and the Lord appearing unto him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father, fear not, for I am with thee, and I will bless thee, and multiply thy seed, for my servant Abraham's sake. And he builded an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there, and Isaac's servants digged a well. In some of the versions, in verse number 15, the wording there for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. Some of the versions say they filled them with dirt. Some of the other versions say that they threw stuff in them. But what I want to talk to you about this morning is don't let the enemy throw stuff in your well. Now, going all the way back to the beginning of the chapter, there was a famine in the land. And that brings me to the thought of, well, I won't stay that way right now. But there was a famine in the land, and God said to him, sojourn here, not build here, not live here, not stay here. That reminds me of taking a verse over in the New Testament that talks about how this land is not our home, we're only passing through. Our home is, the Bible talks about our home is far, far away. God is building a new city, a new Jerusalem. It talks about, I'm looking for a city. The old song says, I'm looking for a city whose builder and maker is God. And so God tells Isaac to sojourn here or stay here for a given amount of time. And that's the same way it is with every one of us that live here on this earth. This earth is not our home. This planet is not our home. Over in Revelation, it talks about a new city, a new heaven and earth. It says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my word shall stand. And then it talks about Nye John, so a new city coming down. And it gives the dimensions and all that kind of stuff. But we get here in this place, and we get the idea that we're going to be here forever. This is our eternal home, but it's not. We're only passing through this land. And he tells Isaac, he said, don't settle here, don't live here, don't set up residence here. You just sojourn here, and while you're here, I'm going to bless you. And it's the same way on this earth. If we follow God, if we do what we're supposed to do, and we trust God and follow God, God is going to bless us. Even while we're sojourning in a strange land, God is still going to bless us in this land. But in this land, you notice the first verse, I think it said, is there was a famine in the land. So there were things going on around them, and they got preoccupied. He got because he went to the king, and he, what are we going to do? We're going to need some food. Everybody's talking about, I listened to somebody the other day talking about waiting for some more Biden money. The government taking care of us. What's the government going to do for us? What's the world going to do for us? What's our own abilities going to do for us? What's our money going to do for us? What's our health going to do for us? Instead of trusting God, like we read in the bulletin this morning, they're going to be at perfect peace whose mind is stayed on Him. And when our minds are stayed on Christ, when our central focus of our life is Christ and His goodness and His salvation, instead of all of the stuff that's going on around us, instead of the famine that's going on in our lives, instead of the governmental situation and the court situation and the job situation and the health situation, instead of all of that stuff that can bombard our minds, if our mind is stayed on Him, we can be in perfect peace. And Isaac got sidetracked, and he began to live there and dwell in the land, because if you look at the verse a couple of words later, it says he began to dwell there. And so we have here where he got preoccupied with the famine in the land. We got caught up in all of the stuff going around us instead of making the main thing, and that's Jesus Christ and Him being born, died, buried, raised again, heaven or hell, those things that are eternally important in our life. My Baylor is not important in my life. My gun training is not important in my life. My court case is not important in my life. My kitchen is not important in my life. My job is not my important thing in my life. All those things are important, but they don't take first place in my life. We need to keep the main thing, and that's Jesus Christ and Him crucified, rose again, and coming back for us soon. So we get preoccupied with things that are going on in the land. We get preoccupied with things that are going on in the world. And we see where that can sidetrack us from what God has intended for us. God says for us to be my witnesses. He says, be my witness. He didn't say go and witness. He said, be a witness. Yeah. And so we have here the story goes on that God tells him, if you'll do what I tell you to do, I will make your seed multiply as stars of the heavens. I'll bless you. I'll take care of you. If we do what God tells us to do, no matter what situation we're in, no matter what job we have, no matter what health we have, no matter what family life we have, no matter what's going on in our life, if we do what God tells us to do, God's going to bless us. He has no choice. That's what He says He's going to do. And God cannot lie. But we go on down to not only did he get preoccupied with the things going on around him, then they started dealing with petty stuff. If you look at the verses 17 through 25, it talks about how he digged again the wells of his father Abraham. Sometimes we get preoccupied with stuff in our life And we need to get back to where we were to begin with. Yeah. We need to get back to the God we serve. There's an old song that says, I have returned to the God of my fathers. And we get sidetracked along the way. And Isaac had gotten sidetracked along the way. He had gotten preoccupied with Laban, and he had gotten preoccupied with the famine, and he had gotten preoccupied with all the things. And then he got to the place in his life to where God was blessing him and God was taking care of him, and he realized how important God was in his life. And so he went back to his roots, and he said he digged again the wells of his life. And I would imagine his mind went back to those younger days when the wells that were set up there, they were a cool, refreshing drink, and oftentimes they built a little shade over the wells to where when they got to the place that they could have the place of shade, the place of refreshment, the place of rest, the place of revelation, the place of refuge, the place of relaxation. All of those different things that you can enjoy there while you're at the shade tree, while you're there at the well that his father, who was blessed by God, get up out of your country, go into a land that I'll show you. Abraham obeyed, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. And he remembered those times of sitting there at his daddy's house and Abraham telling him about the God who had brought him out of the idol-worshiping land and brought him out of a land, and he had given him the land that was there, and he had promised him the promised land, and he had promised him a seed at 100 years old and didn't even have a child yet, and how God had come through in every single situation of his life. And I can imagine how he was sitting there maybe thinking, I want that for my life, but I've got to quit being preoccupied with all of the other stuff in my life. I want God to be number one in my life, but I've got to stop being preoccupied with all of the other circumstances and situations that will come up in my life. And I've got to be so concerned with all of this stuff that's not going to matter, and it's not going to win souls to Jesus, and it's not going to put anybody else in heaven. I've got to stop being so wrapped up in all of this stuff that's not going to matter 100 years from now. And maybe Isaac was sitting there, man, wishing for those days when he could sit back under that shade beside that well of cool, fresh water, thinking about it, listening to his daddies tell stories about Jehovah God. And he found those places of rest on those long, hot days. And he could go over by that well, lean back under that shade. And while he was there, he could be refreshed. And maybe he could sit there in his mind, start to be getting a revelation from God. Because God spoke to him, and the Lord appeared unto him and said, and the Lord appeared unto him and said, and the Lord appeared unto him and said, and at that time of revelation, and in that time of refuge, no matter what's going on around him, you can find safety in God. No matter how your life is going, you can find refuge in God. And then the revelation, this is what I want you to do. Isaac, I want you to serve me. I want you to sojourn here. I want you to multiply here. I want you to set up, I want you to be blessed here. But then what happened is he got the stuff that the devil started throwing, or the enemy. I won't label it the devil, because we know the devil doesn't bother Christians, right? But he started getting bound up by the petty stuff. How many church splits have I seen over petty stuff? Church splits over the color of the carpet. Church splits over a computer. Church splits over... I heard about one church the other day. They had a business meeting. And the meeting was, during services, they had two entrances. One at the back of the church and one right up beside the pulpit of the church. And people would come in late, and they'd come in this front door, and they'd walk right in the front, and they'd come in, and they'd go find their seat. And it was distracting to the preacher, and it was distracting to the congregation. Because you know, somebody walks in the door, everybody's head turns, and the whole topic of the message is gone, especially in our church if they're less than 3 years old. The whole church just disappears on them. And so the preacher says, after services start, we're going to lock this front door from the inside. If there's any kind of emergency or whatever, the door can still be, but from the outside, it won't be accessible, so people can go around to the other door and come in and not disrupt the whole services. And one fellow says, I don't think that's a good procedure. I don't think that's a good idea. Somebody might get trapped in the building. Okay, let me say it again. We're going to lock the door from the inside. if it's locked from the inside, it can be unlocked from the inside. I still don't agree with it. No. It's just not right. I'm not going to do it. And he got up from the meeting, and he walked out of the church, and he never came back. Petty.
Yeah.
Petty. And he digged again the wells of his father. And the herdsmen of the city strove with him. They got aggravating, they got to fighting, they got to arguing about it. There's plenty of water for everybody. No, that's our water. No, it's our water. No, it's our water. It's mine. You see little kindergartners on the playground. Mine, 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 mine. You see these two. Mine, mine, mine. It's my turn. No, it's my turn. It's your turn. You got to do it yesterday. It's my turn. No, no. Petty stuff. Petty stuff destroys families. Petty stuff destroys businesses. Petty stuff destroys churches. And he named the first of those wells Esek, which simply means contention. And how many times have we let contention ruin a business, ruin a family, ruin a church? Getting caught up, not only preoccupation with the things going on around us, but with the petty stuff that happens. Who cares what color the carpet is? Who cares whether you got a banner hanging up or not? Who cares whether you've got burlap on the communion table or offering plates on the table? Who cares? What difference does it? It's petty stuff. It's my water. No, it's my water. It's my water. No, it's my water. And so Isaac just simply, he said, fine, I'll go dig another one. And so he went and dug another well. Same situation. It's mine, 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 mine. Sound like them stupid penguins on Dory finding Dory or something. I don't know.
Seals.
Finding seal, whoever it was. I don't. You can tell I don't watch TV. But he named that one Sidna, because there was strife there too. Contention and strife has ruined more churches than anything else on the face of the planet. Satan doesn't have to do a thing in most of our churches. All he has to do is sit back and watch contentious, striving Christians kill each other. And maybe you're listening this morning and you're sitting out there with hard feelings towards somebody. Throw it in the freaking trash can. Get back in God's house where you belong. You're not going to agree with everybody. You don't agree with your husband or wife all the time, but you don't leave them. Well, some of you do. Some of you change husband and wife more than I change underwear. Jeez. But they begin to be jealous. They begin to be envious. If you read back up in there somewhere, I don't even remember where it's at now. You read the chapter. You can read it as good as I can. Some of you probably better. But envious. They became envious of them because of the way the Lord was blessing them. And you watch it in your life. God starts blessing you, people are going to start talking about you. God starts blessing the church, somebody's going to start talking about you. God starts blessing your business, your health, your family, your stuff. Then it gets into the petty crap. That petty stuff that destroys families, churches, businesses. But then we go over to the encouraging part. He dug another well, and then he strived for that one. In verse 18, and Isaac digged again the wells of water which they dug in. They got purged. Remember what happened to the wells that his father had dug? The enemy had filled it up. Your life can be filled up with preoccupation. Your life can be filled up with petty stuff. Your life can be filled up with bitterness, unforgiveness, hatred, all kinds of things that the enemy throws in your well and robs you of that clear, cool, refreshing water. It robs you of that rivers of living water that God has put inside of you. And we need a purging. He digged again. He got down in there, and I remember my Aunt Callie talking about one time how there was a well out where she lived and somebody had thrown a dead body in there. And I remember some of the old wells down through the woods and stuff, the old country home place where people had thrown logs and tree limbs and dead animals and all kinds of trash and stuff in the old wells. And if they'd have been dug out, if they'd have got all that garbage out of them, there'd have been those clear, flowing, refreshing water again. And it's the same way with our lives. How many people are sitting home this morning because somebody said something in a church that they didn't like? How many people are sitting home this morning depriving themselves of the blessings of God because somebody pettily said, well, it's my water. No, it's my water. It's my water. It's my water. It's my water. And they're sitting home robbing themselves of that clear, refreshing blessings from Almighty God because of some petty, stupid stuff going on in their lives. Maybe they got caught doing something wrong. Maybe they had somebody do something wrong to them. What difference does it make? You're going to jeopardize your spiritual health. You're going to jeopardize your happiness. You're going to jeopardize... And I lived it. I know how it is. You're going to deprive yourself of that clear, refreshing, cold drink of water because of some stupid, petty stuff that's gone on in your life. And we need a purging. We need to dig again. We need to get that garbage out of our well. Because the enemy has got a full load. He doesn't ever run out of petty stuff to throw in our wells. Don't let the enemy throw stuff in your well. Don't get preoccupied with all of the stuff. Because when we're not watching, we're not what the Bible says, be vigilant. Because your adversary, the devil, walks about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. The devil walks up and down these church pews, seeking who he can make go astray with some petty bull molest. He walks up and down the hallways of your workplace. Well, they didn't speak to me this morning. I was going down the highway not too long ago, and the sun was in my eye, because I only have one. And the sunshade pulled down, the sun's on there, the bugs are all over the windshield, because we have the state bird out here is the mosquito. And they cover the windshield, and you can't see squat, much less... And somebody will ride down the road and flip their little finger up at you off their steering wheel, and then 2 days later, preacher didn't wave at me. I ain't going to church no more because preacher didn't wave at me. Had one lady not long ago, well, it's been a couple of years ago now. You remember that party we were at? You didn't speak to me. I wasn't at the party. Didn't come to church because I didn't speak to her at a party that I wasn't even at. Petty stuff. And our adversary, the devil, walks up and down our church pews, our family aisles, our business aisles, our supermarket aisles, looking for stuff. I've seen people tell me, they tell me all the time, well, I saw you in the grocery store. Who was it? Somebody. Phoebe, I was driving down the highway the other day, and I get a text on my phone, and I don't read text when I'm going down the road. But I got a text, and I said, whoever was with me, I said, read this for me. And it says, I saw you. Who's it from? PB Joy. I called her back that afternoon. I said, where were you at? I was on the road on the other side. The other side of the highway, 6 lanes over, going the opposite direction.
Isn't there like 4?
And if she'd have been 13, she'd probably, I ain't going to his church no more. He didn't see me. Since she's only 12, she's back here this morning. But petty stuff. Petty stuff that's causing most of our churches in America today to be only half full. Because of stupid, petty stuff. Purge. We need to dig again the wells of our Father. We need to dig again. Get that junk out of our wells that the enemy is throwing. Because if the enemy can throw stuff in your well, it'll break fellowship. It'll give you a bad attitude. It'll cause unforgiveness. It'll cause grief and strife in your life. It'll cause family breakups. It'll cause church breakups. It'll cause business breakups. Because of that petty stuff the enemy has thrown in your well. Don't let the enemy throw stuff in your well. Don't let the enemy throw stuff in your well. And if he does, get it out while it's still fresh. Go ahead and get it out. I was out at the house the other day, and I don't remember whether I was raking hay or changing irrigation ditches or something, I don't remember. But I saw a little baby bird that had fallen out of the nest, and I was going to be the hero. And so I got and catch the little baby bird, and I was sitting here, and I said, well, the tree's right there. And I took it in my hand, and I threw it up into the limbs, and that idiot flew right over in the middle of the water. So I'm out there, I can't half walk. Got steel knees. I'm climbing down in the irrigation ditch, saving this stupid little baby bird that's going to be eaten by a feral cat anyway. And I get him and I bring him up and he's pecking at me the whole time because I'm trying to save his life. And that's the way it is in the church. People pecking at you all the time because I'm simply just trying to save your life. And I take him over to a log and I set him on the log and he falls off. You stupid. No wonder you fell out of the nest.
And his mom and dad was trying.
Oh yeah, mom and dad's just flying all around my head trying to beat me to death. Forgot about them. I pick him up again. I said, all right, what am I going to do with you? He's like, ah! And so finally, I just took him over to the base of the tree and I set him on the root. And by that time, I think mom and dad had figured out I was trying to save the idiot. So they had backed off a little bit. So I set him on the root at the bottom of the tree and he looks around at me, ah! Mom and dad sitting up there on the limb going. And I said, if you live or die, I'm done with you. But what was I even talking about? Purging. Oh yeah, got him out of the creek so he could live. You go ahead and see if I'd left him in the water, he'd have probably died. And then he was rotted, and then he would have stunk up the water supply. But if you go ahead and get him out, right from the get-go, Lord have mercy. You ever just stand on the outside and watch some of the stupid stuff people argue about? You ever stood in your house the day after a fight with you and your wife or you and your child?
Every day.
And you think every day. And you think about, God, how stupid was that fight?
Serious? Yes.
Petty. Petty. And it happened. It's my water. No, it's my water. It's my water. It's my water. There's enough flipping water for all of you.
Yes, right?
I don't care if you want psychedelic striped carpet. Pick a color for every person in the church. What difference does it make? You have your own square. You want a padded pew? Bring you a pillow. You want a hard bench? Sit on the front one. Nobody else sits up here. What difference does it make? The only thing it does is makes the devil happy.
Oh, yeah.
And when he's happy, ain't nobody else happy.
Right.
The devil kind of like mama. When mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Amen.
Same way with the devil. When the devil, anyway, don't let the enemy throw stuff in your will. If you're out there this morning, and you should be in here,
Yeah.
because of something petty, I pray you'll get it right. I pray you'll get it purged.
Yeah.
If you're sitting out there this morning and you're not anywhere close to here, but you ain't where you ought to be
No.
because of something petty, I pray that you'll purge it.
No.
Well, preacher, you don't know what they did to me. I know what they did to Christ, and he kept on going anyway.
That's right.
This church ought to be full. We got 3,000 people in town. We got about 10% of them in our church. No, 1% of them in our church. Yeah, we ain't got 300 people. Lord knows we ain't got 300 people. Maybe 30 on a good day. Got 3 today. But don't let the devil throw stuff in your well. You're only hurting yourself because it's robbing you of that cool, refreshing drink of water.
Mm-hmm.